Welcome back to a special edition of Channel 6 Sports. I'm Kelly Hayes. In March of 2014, Russ Pennell was named the new head basketball coach at the University of Central Arkansas. In his first season, the Bears would start with 19 consecutive losses and finishing the season with only 2 wins. For Coach Pennell, this season's record was far from his expectations. However, the future of the program is what fans should be most excited about. Channel 6 reporter Michael Deere sat down and spoke with Coach Pennell about the 2014-2015 season and what's ahead for Bears basketball come November.
See how his defense is on the other end, knowing that he has 4. Howard for 3. Got it. Jordan Howard.
What was the hardest part of last season for you as a coach?
You know, I think it was just the seeing our guys give great effort every day in practice and go out and not have the success. I've made the statement to people that the only thing I did not like about my team was our end of the season record. I thought their attitudes were great. I thought they worked hard. But as a coach, when you see your team struggling, and a lot of our struggles I knew why, and it wasn't going to change, that made it difficult. But what kept us going was just the attitudes of the kids and how hard they worked, and they just never got discouraged, or if they did, they didn't let it show.
How did you and your staff keep the guys focused?
You know, that was a challenge. I'd never lost like that ever in my career. And so we had to find ways in kind of, every day trying to make something fresh, something new. I think the big thing, though, it was a big picture. The kids knew that it was going to be a hard year. They knew when you're playing as many young guys as we were, a brand new team, conference none of us knew anything about, that the odds were against us. And I think we really stayed focused on the process, that we had to get better each and every day and stack some days together. And a lot of our getting better wouldn't occur until in the future. And so I think knowing that, when you're realistic with that and you share that and you're transparent with your team, it helps a lot.
Talk about how the team grew from the very first practice you had with them to the final game of the season.
Well, we grew leaps and bounds. And unfortunately, sometimes as fans and supporters of the program, you don't get to see that. You just go to the game and the end result is, we lost again. But we were just so naive when we first started out, just terminology of the game, how we wanted to play it. The guys had talent. They came from good backgrounds. Mm-hmm. But learning to play the college game in a new system was very difficult. By the end of the year, I felt like we had a great knowledge. If you visited with our guys and asked them where they were supposed to be on defense or what set we were running on offense, how we defend a certain action, pick and roll, they had all the answers. And so that was, to me, a big victory, because knowledge is the beginning of being able to do what you need to do physically. And so I think that we grew leaps and bounds, and to me that's the foundation that was established and set last year.
That's perfect. I was about to ask you, do you believe you built a great foundation in year one?
I really do. And I think the thing excites us as a staff more than anything. A lot of times when you take over a new program, you have to wait 2 or 3 years to cycle people out to get your own team. And we kind of bit the bullet, and we paid for it. 2-27. That's a rough record, but we were able to get a lot of young guys experience. I don't look at our team and go, man, I think we made a mistake on that guy. We shouldn't have recruited that guy. What I look at is that we've got the pieces in place. We just got to let them kind of grow together.
Was there anything that you learned about your team from the start to finish of the season that may have surprised you a little bit?
I don't know, surprise, but the 2 things I love is their resilience and persistence. And to me, that's great qualities of an athlete. There's nothing worse than giving up. And I never did sense that. We got discouraged sometimes, but the next day in practice, we would come back and they were at it again. And they never, ever gave up on the year. They were persistent with their effort, resilient. We'd get close on a couple games and not win, and we'd get blown out another game, and yet they just kept coming with that relentless attitude. And I think what that's going to do is carry us in the future as we get more players in, we get a little bit older, we have some transfers going to be eligible, a new freshman coming in. I think that's contagious and that carries over. And in my experience, the places that we've won, we've started kind of at that point, maybe not gutting the program like happened here, but you started with that, and in time, that persistence becomes a real strength of your team.
In your eyes, was there a player that showed a ton of improvement throughout the season? Is there one that you can pick?
Yeah, I think a lot of them did. Probably me having the background with Jake Zuloff as much as anything. And, Jordan Howard gets a lot of publicity because he was the freshman of the year. But I'd seen Jordan do it. I watched him all through high school. I knew what his abilities were. Jake played for me at Grand Canyon, but I didn't play him very much. His freshman year, he didn't play hardly at all. His sophomore year, I redshirted him, which put saved him a year eligibility. And then his redshirt sophomore year, they didn't play him very much before he transferred here. So I really was kind of going on what I thought Jake could be, even though I'd been around him. And man, he had a good year. I mean, statistically, he was up and down a little bit, but as far as being a stabilizer, a leader on the team, a guy inside that we can throw the basketball to, he did a really nice job because in essence it was his first year of college basketball of playing. And what I'm really excited about is the improvement he's made since the season's ended to now. I think he's going to have a super senior year and be one of the better big men in the Southland Conference.
And you spoke about the freshman of the year, Jordan Howard. For the outsiders, we didn't know about his injury until after the season. Yeah. What did you learn from him playing on an injured knee?
Toughness. And, Jordan hurt his knee against Morehead State, which was the first game back after Christmas. And we didn't know it at the time. Kept getting worse. A couple weeks later, we had an MRI that it showed that he had torn meniscus. And, our team doctors did a great job of explaining to Jordan, you're not going to hurt it any worse. And it's just if you can manage the pain and you want to keep playing. Well, the thing I liked is we weren't playing for anything. Our record was already kind of in the toilet, so to speak, and we were playing to get better for us. But it had been real easy for him to shut it down, and instead he just, sucked it up, was a good teammate, and battled through that. There were sometimes I'd have to hold him out of practices. His knee was so swollen the next day that we would just set him and hope he was going to be ready for the next game. But that's inspirational, and he never knows how much that will impact his whole teammates. And his words will mean something now as he gets older because he's lived it. And I was real proud of him. He deserved to be the freshman of the year, and we're just thankful we got him 3 more years.
With him playing through the injury, was he a leader of this team for doing that, or did you and the coaching staff have to instill some leadership in these guys, or were there players that stepped up and it was natural for them to be leaders for this team?
I really felt like that was one of the weaknesses of our team this year, and I think a lot of it is because they were all kind of equal. They all came in together. You had some that were a little bit older than others, but it was really hard to establish kind of a pecking order. And we tried to get the older guys, Jake Zuloff, Mike Martin, step up and be a little more vocal. That's really not in their personalities. I do think Jordan has great leadership qualities. I think his fighting through pain did help and establish himself as a future leader. But he's another guy who's just very chill off the court. Doesn't do he's just pretty. What you see is what you get. The leader of our team wasn't eligible this year, Justin Foreman. He had to sit out, and he was great in practice and was great at home games. Unfortunately, we'd go on the road. We didn't have Justin there. He wasn't able to travel with us as he was a transfer, and NCAA rules don't allow for that. I've already seen a big change in the team just from him now going to be eligible next year here in the springtime. But I think one of our weaknesses was the fact our leadership wasn't great. It wasn't bad. They'd follow. They were great at following. But a lot of the energy had to come from the coaches, and I don't think that's ideal for teams. I think in time we'll have better leadership, and that should bode well for the program.
You spoke about Justin Foreman. Speak about the red shirts this past season. Jeff Lowry is one of those as well. Do you think the red shirts really going to improve them for this upcoming season?
I really do, and in Justin Foreman, Jeff Lowry, and Derek Brooks, who came at the semester, those guys were forced to redshirt by NCAA rules, transferring here from a 4-year school. Those 3 guys will have a great opportunity to start for us next year. They're very good players. Derek and Jeff will be juniors. Justin will be a senior. And I think the setting out part for them was more mental than physical. They're already pretty physically fit. They've been in the weight room 3 years in college. They've been through seasons. Derek played on a national championship team at the junior college level. So, their experiences have been really, really good. Justin's played against, the University of Oregon and UNLV and some of these teams. So he's been around the block too. What I think it did for them more than anything is they sat over there on the sideline and they were frustrated. They're frustrated that they weren't able to do anything about it. And what I would do a lot of times, and if our fans would ever watch me, I'd go down and talk to them during the game a lot. I wanted to engage them in what was going on. But I would point things out. We can't let this happen next year. You guys got to have this seared in your mind, what we have to do. And I think from that standpoint, they matured a lot. I have seen it in their leadership this spring, just the way that they won't let us have lulls in the workouts, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's in the football practice field where we do a lot of agility and just conditioning stuff, or even in our basketball workouts. There is a different feel simply because those guys are mature, they've been through it, but they sat there and watched it last year. So I'm excited about those three. I think they're going to help a lot. And what's really nice for us is it's three new players, but they get to practice with us last year. So it's like we signed three new guys, except they were on the team last year and get to learn our system. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I'm always big on redshirting, and we certainly like to have him this year, but I'm looking forward to this upcoming year with those three.
Now we're in the off season. Describe what your off seasons are like.
Well, this one has been focused on mental toughness, and we've put them through it. If you talk to our guys, they'll let you know that. We've been in the weight room a lot. Almost every guy to this point, we've been lifting since about the middle of March, has put on between 8 and 12 pounds, which is what we need. There's a maturity that will take place, I think, usually between your freshman and sophomore year about as much as anything. They're learning to like the weight room more. A lot of times kid comes out of high school, he's been able to do it on natural ability, and he doesn't understand how physically fit he needs to be a college athlete. So we have addressed that. And then our staff has developed a kind of an agility, toughness type workout after the weights. So they're in the weight room for an hour. They're in there from 8 to 9 in the morning. And then at 9 o'clock, we go into the practice field, the football field, or to the track. And we've got some crazy stuff we're doing with them, pushing a 45-pound plate 70 yards. That doesn't sound like much, but you get on that turf and try to do it. It's not easy, and we usually go down and back twice, taking a semi-tractor tire and flipping it over and over and over. We do some things where they are linked arm in arm, and they have to do lunges, and they have to do it at exactly the same time and count it out and talk. And it's more of a camaraderie. We have to be in this thing together. Accountability. If a guy messes up, I want to see how we respond. Do we chew him out? Do we encourage him? Do we go silent? And what the appropriate response I want is you hold your brother accountable, the guy next to you. So we've been doing things like that honestly in the first week or so was challenging. In these last few weeks leading up to the end of the semester, it's been fantastic. I've seen a major change in their attitude.
I had a chance to catch a glimpse of the off-season workouts, seeing them push the
you over there.
75-pound weights in the indoor facility. What has Coach Steiner had his impact in the strength conditioning? What impact has that had on your program?
Well, Coach Steiner's come from the highest stage. He was at Mississippi State in the SEC, and he brings that mentality with him. Just of if you're going to be the best, you got to train like the best. And he's done a fantastic job with our guys. Tailoring what we need. A lot of times you can lift weights and it's not really tailored for the body type or for the sport. And I think Coach Steiner has a great feel for a basketball team. We lift different than the football team, and we should. Ours needs to be more lean body mass, explosion, endurance, and I think Coach Steiner's done a fantastic job with that, and you can see it in the bodies of our guys in the last 6 weeks since we've been lifting.
Now let's move on to recruiting. Now, you don't have to bring in as many recruits because you have the players who set out this year are going to be ready next year. What's your overall recruiting philosophy?
Well, what I like in a player, I love versatility. Matthew Kamba, for instance, he can play point guard and he can play power forward, and I like that. And especially at our level, the Southland Conference, I think you have to have a lot of those 6'5" to 6'6" guys who are athletic and multi-dimensional. You have to add pieces from the inside, big guys. Probably one of the hardest things to find at a mid-major type school like ours is size, because the size usually goes a little bit higher levels. We've been very blessed. We signed a young man out of Buffalo, New York named Tanner Schmidt. Went to the same high school as Christian Leitner. And if anyone saw that 30 for 30 on I Hate Christian Leitner, the Nichols School where he played, in fact, the camp he's doing at the end of that film, that's where Tanner played his high school career. And we were very fortunate to get him. We started recruiting him, and he had a lot of Northeastern schools on him. He came down here, fell in love with the campus in Conway, and we signed him. And I'm excited about him. He's about 6'8", goes about 220 right now. Averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds last year, senior year. And he's the only new guy that we'll have with the program. But we're on to 2016. Obviously, I can't name names because of the NCAA rules, but we're looking for versatility. We're looking for guys who can do it academically and who want to fit into a family environment. And I think that's probably what maybe even separates us from a lot of programs. We delve into your mind and your heart as much as we do the fact you can hit your head on the rim or you're fast. And I think that bodes well because when you're unified and you have a family mentality, it's like you and I, we'll do more for our families than we will anyone else because that's who means everything to us. We have to develop that in this room right here. It's got to be a brotherhood, and we're doing that, and so we're looking for pieces to fill those roles.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Academics is very important to you. Your team posted a 3.1 GPA over this last semester. How important is that for you, and knowing your first year here, first semester, the team has a great GPA like they did?
Well, it's vital, and it's funny. I see coaches ask that question all the time. And we all have the same response, oh, it's the most important thing ever. Oh, it's the most important thing ever. But I think what we do is try to demonstrate that. And I say that by this. The reason you and I are talking, I have a college degree, which allows me to have this job. Why wouldn't I want that for my own players? I want it for my daughters. I want it for my own players. Their quality of life, it's proven, will be much better with a college education and degree than if they didn't get that. What I think would be tragic is to play here for 4 years, not get a degree, and I look up and you're 30, 35 years old and you're down and out and nothing's going right for you. I would feel responsible for that. So when I look at us going to class and doing well, that's not for a pat on my back at all. It's for their livelihood in the future. And I think that's, as a coach, we've lost sight of that. I'm an educator. I coach basketball, but it's our job to educate them. Maybe I'm not teaching algebra to them, but what we are doing is teaching them life lessons. And here's a life lesson. If you don't get up and go to work, you get fired. If you're late, you get fired. Well, if you don't go to class here, you get up at 5 in the morning and run 5 miles. And that's a gentle reminder because you're not losing your house and your car and maybe your family because you won't get up and take responsibility. So that's how I think of our academics when I'm thinking about that. It's much bigger than this semester and taking English 101. And I am proud of our guys. I'm proud that they paid the price. And the other thing I found with athletes, they're all competitive. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're competitive on the floor, be competitive in the classroom. Can we have one of the better GPAs of all the sports? Can you in this room set the curve on our GPA? And so I think those are things that we try to instill that have been very, very good for us.
I know it's early now. We're sitting here during the spring. But what is this team capable of next season?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think we'll be better, significantly better. When you win 2 games, if you double them, you've won 4. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I do think one of our goals is, we've talked about it, to have the biggest turnaround in college basketball, which when you win 2 is not that hard. But I want it to be a significant turnaround. If we'll keep maturing like I see us maturing, we have a chance of being pretty good because we're talented. That's the one thing. We're athletic. We shoot the ball extremely well. We got to get better defensively. We got to get better rebounding, our toughness. But a lot of that's being addressed with the personnel changes. And so my goal as always is to get to some sort of postseason play. And we're not eligible for the NCAA tournament right now with the APR. But we can go to some of the other tournaments if we're good enough. And so that would be our goal, and I just want to see us improve as this program is moving forward. I told Dr. Teague here recently, what I want to do is establish a consistency in this program, that year in, year out, we're in the top 2 or 3 in this league, and everyone knows UCA is going to be good. And it's not one of these, well, they lost some people, they're not going to be very good again. And the only way you can do that is by stacking good recruiting classes one on top of the other. One other thing, we'll have the luxury, we haven't decided who yet, but we'll probably redshirt 2 or 3 guys, maybe guys who played a lot this year, next year. And we will determine that by how they come back and kind of where the team has progressed. But I think it makes sense with 13 guys. If I can't get them all in the game, we need to redshirt a few of them. But I'm optimistic.
And one last question I've asked the other coaches. What's one word you'd use to describe your team?
One word I want us to be, or one word we are?
Wherever, what do you want them to be? One word do you want them to be?
Toughness. I think athletics comes down to a lot of time who's the toughest team, and a lot of people understand the word toughness. Toughness is not that I'm gonna fight you and punch you in the face. Toughness is a mentality that I won't give in, that I'll play harder than you, and that you simply can't break me mentally. And that's what we have to move towards. My best teams, and a characteristic of my teams in the past, have always been that. And what I think is a lot of times athletic contest comes down to who can outlast the other one. There's an old story, two men are in the woods, we've all heard it, and the bear chases them, and one stops, grabs his tennis shoes out of his backpack, and the guy says, "You can't outrun the bear." He says, "I don't have to outrun the bear, I gotta outrun you." And that's exactly the way I feel sometimes in sports, is that all you gotta do is outlast that opponent next to you, and maybe you win ugly, it doesn't matter, but it comes down to toughness, and that's, can you get stops on defense, big rebounds, will you take big shots and not be afraid, and we've got to work toward those ends. If we get that, we'll be fine.
During Coach Pennell's introduction press conference in March of 2014, he put emphasis that he would bring in point guards. Having been a point guard in college, Pennell knows what qualities he needs in a floor general in order to win. Jordan Howard and Mike Martin combined to average almost 27 points per game, with Howard being named Southland Conference Freshman of the Year. The bond and trust created by Coach Pennell gave these two the poise to come to Central Arkansas and attempt to make the Bears a winning program.
A minute 34 left in the half. Boom Milligan.
That's exactly.
Howard, the three, and it is good. Jordan Howard is just lighting it up today.
What was the whole reasoning behind coming to UCA?
Well, for me, Coach Pennell reminded me a lot of my high school coach. And to believe it or not, they were actually like best friends and stuff like that. So made it a little persuasive. Just come to UCA, might as well.
For me, I've known Coach Pennell for most of my life, and he's always been a real loyal figure, and I've known him as a person more than a coach. And then I had the privilege to play for him when I was younger, and I knew exactly what I was getting from a coaching aspect and as a person as well. So when I was getting recruited, he was the first coach to recruit me, and he was also the last coach to recruit me. So it seemed like everything just fell in place.
We know that Coach Pennell takes his basketball serious, but what's he like off the court? What's he like behind the scenes?
He tries to be really transparent with all the players. He knows there's a difference between the basketball aspect and then as a person as well. So he tries to be not really concern the losing and like the failures as much off the court as he does on the court. When we're on the court, it's about business, and we really practice hard. And he's hard on us, but he knows what we can be and how good we can be. But off the court, he just makes sure that we have fun no matter win or lose, and that we just have a full experience in basketball.
What's your experience with Coach off the court?
To me, it's like a more of a family feel, kind of, with Coach Russ. I mean, it's not like every coach, like, you come here, you practice, that's it, I'm not going to do anything with you. He'll take us out to eat. He'll do all the little things that most coaches won't do.
Well, when you were getting ready to decide to come to UCA, I'm sure Coach Pennell didn't want to say, guys, this could be a down year. Did he let you guys in on, this wouldn't be a year with postseason basketball? This was going to be more of a building year for you guys? Did he mention that to you before you came to UCA?
Yeah, he told me before I came, and I just thought it was always my dream to play D1, so I took that opportunity. I knew what was coming ahead, so I just buckled down and get ready for it.
And that says a lot about you guys wanting to come into a program that okay, this is going to be a year where we're not going to be noticed for anything on the court as in terms of postseason play, but it was going to be a year where you could really build. Did you see that coming into UCA, did you see this as going to be a big-time growing year for this program?
Yeah, I knew it was going to definitely be a process, especially with everyone coming in new, but I also knew it left room for a lot of opportunity, and which I saw a lot this year, and which was a good experience for me to play Division I, and I'm excited for the years to come.
All right, so now we have to talk about this past season. It wasn't a great season, but you guys did pick up 2 wins. There was times where the Northwestern State game, a game that you guys easily could have won. It was a very high-scoring game. Northwestern State, high-scoring offense. You guys played many games for the season. You played, and one big thing with Coach Pennell is he's going to schedule big teams. You guys aren't going to play lower division teams. He wants you to go against some of the best competition in the nation. How would you sum up your first year at UCA?
For me, I'd sum it up as just a big learning experience. To be honest, I didn't think it was going to be that bad going 2-20, or I at least thought it'd be above 500. But I mean, I learned from it. I learned what we got to do, what to expect from people, what people expect from me. So I'm ready to take that challenge on next year.
What was it like for you as a freshman? Mike's the upperclassman. What was it like for you coming in this first season? Because no one wants to go through a season like this.
Yeah, I think it was just, for me, it was just really maturity. This is the first time I've been away from my family. This is the first time going to college. First time playing Division I basketball. And it was kind of like we were being thrown to the wolves, but it was also a really cool learning experience. And I think it's just really going to help us in the long run.
As far as this upcoming season getting ready to start, what are you guys doing? First with you, Mike. What are you doing this off season to try and improve your game?
Really, probably get in the gym, get more shots up, get my handles right, get a little bigger, everything it takes, really.
You work with the strength and conditioning program. How's the strength and conditioning been that you saved in your time?
So far it's been good. I mean, the stuff we just started in the off season, that's really gonna help a lot. You can already see improvements and everything like that, so that's good.
What about you? Now you won the postseason award. You were Southland Conference Freshman of the Year. So what are you going to work on to get better?
Yeah, that was a great accomplishment, but I know I have to work even harder because now there's going to be kind of a target on my back in a sense. But I definitely have great people surrounding me, people that want to help, people that are willing to put in time with me, and then also me just being determined to get better every day.
What's it been like building the relationship with this team? You guys came from all over the world, literally, and you came here to Conway, Arkansas, and UCA. What was it like building a relationship, not only just with the staff, but with the players? Because you spend a lot of time with each other, I assume.
It was weird jumping from getting to know, like, from my previous school, knowing everybody, then coming meeting a whole brand new team, and then also knowing I'm one of the oldest on the team, so it was a little weird. Never been in that position, but I thought we gelled quick, probably quicker than most teams could if they were in our position, and I think this team has a bright future ahead of them.
I just think Coach really emphasized the family aspect of the whole team, and I think we really embraced that. And even through losing, we all stayed together. There weren't any egos, there weren't any arguments, there weren't any fights. Everyone just stayed together, and I think that shows a lot for everybody's character and what we can become in the future.
Now, we know that pretty much this entire team is coming back. There'll be an exit here, but you're bringing in, Coach Pendle says he's going to bring in a recruit, get some size in. So now you're going to have another year with the same core of guys. What do you think this team is capable of in year two? Is it going to be, you said you weren't expecting only 2 wins. You were thinking around 500. Is that something you can think of for year number 2, maybe getting that record around 500?
Most definitely. I mean, adding Jeff and Justin and Derek, like, some more experience on the court will help. And most of the younger guys can learn from that too. So, and I think them playing last year, I mean, they played a lot more minutes than any freshman could say in college, you know. So I think that just lifted them up even more. They're gonna play harder now. They know what it takes. So it'll be a good year.
Just me playing this year as a freshman, knowing that we're gonna have a lot of more experience coming in and guys who've been there before, and now that we've been through it, it's just it'll be a great combination. I think it's going to go really well.
And going back to the leadership, Coach Pendle did say a little bit about the leadership of this team. He said if there was one thing he wished he could have improved on, it would have been at times the leadership. You know, it's tough going through a 2-27 season. For you as an upperclassman, is that something that you want to take on to yourself this season, be a little bit more vocal, or is that just not you?
The vocal type really is not me. I mean, I'll speak up and stuff like that every once in a while, unless it keeps going on and on. Like, if it irks my nerves, and I'll keep saying something, you know, or I'll confront them about it or something like that. But really, just the vocal type's really not me. I just go out and play, really.
For you being now about to be a sophomore, do you look up to Mike and the upperclassmen in terms of leadership, or now that you've won Southland Conference Freshman of the Year, do you think you have to step up your leadership a little bit more for the incoming guy coming in for the season?
Definitely. I definitely look up to those guys because they're older and more experienced, and I'll listen to anything they have to say. But also for the younger guys and the guys that are in my classification as well, I got to make sure I become a leader so that in my junior and senior year, I can be the one to lead them and be the one to lead the team. So that's what I'm looking to do this year, is also be open to their leadership, also have a type of leadership of my own.
Mike, you're kind of a do-it-all type guard, very physical. You can shoot the ball, great passing game. What do you see your role changing from this past season to this season? How do you see your role changing, if at any?
I see my role changing is I'll get more breaks now. I mean, no, we got more people coming in and stuff like that. We won't have to be on the floor as much. So I think my role, it'll be the same, but it'll be just more harder. Just going out there instead of like saving up my energy, now I can just let it all go. Then I got a sub coming, I'm good to go. Put me back in. That's how it is.
And you, we found out late in the year, played most of the season on a partially torn ligament in your knee. What did you learn about yourself going through that process?
It was definitely a hard experience, but I learned how to play through and fight adversity. But I know that from that injury, next year will be even more exciting because I'll be able to do more things from an athletic standpoint. So I'll be able to move better and play better defense and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what next year, the combination of everybody, and then also what more I can bring to the table as well.
What did Freshman of the Year award, what did that mean to you? How did the team respond? How did everyone in your close circle, what did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. I mean, I worked very hard this year, and everyone really just embraced me and congratulated me, and I couldn't have done it without Mike and my teammates and everybody and all the support we've had this year. But it was definitely a great achievement, and I just know, like, looking forward, that it makes me hungry to want more. So
I know it's in the off season, but you're coming up on your senior year. When you hear those words, what do you think about?
I got one more year left. I mean,
is it bittersweet? Are you excited, but at the same time, you know this is going to be the last go around? That this is.
Yeah, it hit me at the end. It was like, I can't believe last year counted as a year for me. But I mean, it'll all change, and I have a good feeling the senior will be something like memorable, most definitely. It's going to be a big change.
Last year, being the tough season, what did the fan support here at UCA? I mean, now by no means was it 20,000 people at every game, but I mean, for a team that's struggling to win and going through some growing pains, there seemed to be a good crowd at the Ferris Center, and they were behind you. And I know, like we talked about earlier, the Northwestern State game, that game was probably the loudest game all year just because the way the game was being played. It was an up-and-down game. It was two great offenses that night. The defenses might have taken a little time off that night. It was 110 to 107, I believe. But talk about the fan support here at UCA. What's it meant to you?
It's good having people behind our backs, knowing we're struggling. I mean, we need someone, behind there cheering us on, and I think that's great that they did that because that just kept us going. I mean, at least they were still in the stands. It's not like we played in front of nobody. There were still people there, and they came to support us, so that was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just really appreciative of all the support we had. There were a lot of loyal fans that came to every game, and like that's exciting moving forward because they come up to us and they tell us how excited they are to see like the progression and how much they love to see us play, and we're like, well, we're not winning, and they're like, yeah, that's gonna come, but we see how together you guys are and how much of a team you are, so that's exciting. That's why they love to see us play. And next year when the winning comes, it'll be even better.
And next year, Coach said he does expect more wins, and he said he expected a little bit different basketball. He said this team next year with a little bit more experience should be a team that should get up and down the court. He said he's going to mix defenses up in the middle of possessions, he said even. So what are you guys really expecting for next year as a team? Are you guys is it going to be a lot like last year in the sense you're going to run the same offense and defense, or are you expecting to ratchet things up a little bit and it's going to be a different offense and defense?
I see it being a completely whole new different offensive defensive schemes. Just by the way we've been practicing and some of the stuff we're doing, like guards setting screens for bigs too and stuff like that, like guards setting guard screens. I mean, we're gonna mix it up a lot next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with all the people we're adding and the tools we're going to be able to utilize, it'll open up a lot of variety. So I think next year is going to open up for different defenses, different offenses, and different types of scenarios. So I think it's exciting.
And was there one thing that you learned in the Southland Conference that you'll take away from last year to this year? Is there one thing in particular? Like don't drive against number 52 for Southeastern or something, anything like that?
Personally, I think like it comes down to defense because as you could see, like the Stephen F. and Stephen F. Austin and Sam Houston, those were the two top defensive teams, and they were the ones who were on top this year and this past year. So I think like next year we're gonna have a lot of different aspects that we're going to be able to use. So defensively and offensively, we're going to be improved. So I think that's going to open up a lot of opportunity to win in the Southland Conference.
And this is a conference where Stephen F. Austin, you were just saying, they were a 12 seed in this past year's NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. And many were picking them to beat the 5 seed Utah. Does that give you hope if things do go right this next year, say you guys start rattling off some big time wins, that there's a team out of this conference that year in, year out. Stephen F. Austin did it the year before, too. This is back-to-back years they've had success in the NCAA tournament. Does that give you a little bit of hope going into your senior year? If we get things going the right way, that, hey, we can be in the NCAA tournament and we could be a team like that?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I feel like the way we've been working on the off season so far, we're going to be up there. We'll be able to compete with Stephen F., hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Coach Pennell, Mike, and Jordan, for speaking to us about the future of Bears basketball. Be sure to tune in to Channel 6 in the fall for the debut of our new show, One-on-One, featuring in-depth interviews from players and coaches from Central Arkansas. For Michael Deere, I'm Kelly Hayes, and thank you for watching this special edition of Channel 6 Sports.